Before we cross into the unknown, leave a hello in the comments. Even the smallest signal can ripple across galaxies, guiding fellow wanderers to this tale. Let me know you're out there. A voice among the stars, listening with me beyond the veil. Engines roared across the void as the flagship Vigilant launched from the orbital docks of Nova Prime. Admiral Jonas Hale gritted his teeth, watching as the fleet vanished into the black. 20 years of peace since the Phantom Fleet's disappearance had lulled humanity into complacency, but the strange transmissions were impossible to ignore. Dr. Alara Quinn's reports of children with uncanny neural patterns reached him hours ago. "Sir," a junior officer stammered, "one of them is sending coordinates to an uncharted galaxy." Hale's eyes narrowed. The phantom signals weren't merely a curiosity, they were a summons. Quinn's research station trembled under the weight of her discovery. Neural scans of the children revealed patterns impossible by known science. Waves sinking across light years, harmonics that resonated with interstellar voids. One child, a small girl named Mira, hummed frequencies in a language no translator could parse. "They're linked," Quinn whispered to herself, voice trembling. "Not just to each other, but to the Phantom Fleet." Hale's decision loomed. Follow the coordinates into darkness and risk awakening the ancient, war-bound fleet, or ignore the call and leave a dying galaxy to collapse alone. Hale convened the council aboard Vigilant, tension crackling like charged plasma. "We've received coordinates from a source beyond the known sectors," he announced, voice steel. Admirals murmured, some skeptical, others terrified. The children's psychic signals pulsed faintly through the ship's comms, subtle but insistent. "If we engage," Hale continued, "we may awaken forces humanity has never faced." The room fell silent. Every officer weighed the risk. Exploration meant discovery, but danger lurked in the unknown like a predator in shadow. Meanwhile, Quinn monitored Mira's connection to the void. Images of distant stars, torn galaxies, and vessels that flickered between dimensions filled her holoscreens. "They're reaching through the fabric of space," she muttered, fingers tracing patterns she couldn't fully understand. In one fleeting pulse, Mira emitted a sequence that sent shivers down the spine of every sensor. Hale's comm crackled. "Dr. Quinn, if this is what I think it is, prepare to guide us into the void. The fleet may already be awake. Vigilant pierced the edge of the galaxy, sensors straining against cosmic interference." Hale stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the star lines bending unnaturally. "Signal strength is fluctuating," the communications officer warned. Every jump closer amplified the psychic pulse from Mira's mind, resonating with the ship's own neural interface. Crew members whispered of hearing phantom voices in their heads, faint warnings or perhaps enticements. The line between reality and projection blurred. Quinn's hands flew across her console, translating frequencies into coordinates. "There," she said, pointing to a decaying star system at the galaxy's edge. Hale leaned forward, tension coiling in his chest. A silhouette emerged from the stellar haze, a vessel of impossible design, shimmering with interdimensional energy. It was unmistakably part of the Phantom Fleet, massive, alien, yet eerily human in outline. The fleet's presence confirmed the psychic link. Hale swallowed hard, knowing that the next decision could ignite war across dimensions. The first Phantom Fleet ship drifted into view, engine silent yet radiating a low hum that vibrated through Vigilant's hull. Hale's fingers tightened around the rail. "Open a channel," he ordered. Silence answered. The children's signals intensified, harmonics weaving an almost musical warning. One officer stumbled backward, muttering about shadows moving in the void. Hale ignored him. Every instinct screamed caution, but curiosity, the same that had driven humanity to the stars, pushed him forward. Quinn analyzed Mira's neural map, noting a spike as the fleet reacted. "It's alive," she whispered. "Not in a physical sense. They think, plan. but in dimensions we can barely perceive. The psychic link was no longer passive. The Phantom Fleet was aware of their presence. Hale's voice cut through the tension. Prepare boarding protocols. If they're reaching through, we have to respond in kind. Across the bridge, crew members exchanged glances. The mission had shifted from exploration to survival, and the line between human and fleet had begun to blur. As Vigilant drifted closer to the fleet, the void seemed to thrum with anticipation. Sensors detected spatial distortions, folds and ripples where reality itself bent. Hale felt a tightening in his chest as a faint image appeared. A star collapsing into a black void, a warning of what awaited. Mira's cries pierced the psychic veil, a chorus only he could hear. "Admiral," Quinn said, voice urgent. "They're communicating coordinates to something larger, something dying, but conscious." Hale's decision crystallized. "Set course for the coordinates," he commanded, defiance and fear intertwining. Crew members braced against artificial gravity as engines roared to life once more, this time deeper into the unknown. Every light on the bridge flickered under the strain of interdimensional energy. Quinn monitored Mira, noting each pulse, each harmonic, a lifeline and a warning. Humanity's fate balanced on the edge of uncharted space, the Phantom Fleet stirring, and a dying galaxy whispering secrets across dimensions. The coordinates led them into a region of fractured space, where stars twisted unnaturally and light bent like liquid. Vigilant's hull vibrated under the strain. Crew members reported hallucinations, fleeting images of Phantom Fleet vessels, mirrored corridors, and whispers that seemed to echo their own thoughts. Hale stood firm, gripping the bridge rail. "We are explorers," he reminded himself, "but we are also soldiers. Proceed with caution." The children's psychic signals flared brighter, guiding the ship like a spectral compass. Quinn traced Mira's neural patterns, noticing connections forming between her mind and multiple children across colonies. "They're networked," she said, awe and dread mingling in her voice. "Not just telepathy. This is a hive consciousness, coordinated with the Phantom Fleet itself." Mira's small voice hummed again, repeating sequences that translated into star charts showing entire systems collapsing. Hale's jaw tightened. "If they're right," he muttered, "then we're heading straight into a battlefield we cannot yet imagine." Vigilant emerged from the distorted sector into a system dominated by a dying sun, its gravity warping the fleet's sensors. Shadows of ships shimmered at impossible angles, as if phasing in and out of reality. "They're watching us," said a young officer, voice trembling. Hale nodded grimly. Every pulse from Mira seemed to resonate with the Phantom Fleet vessels, creating a bridge across dimensions. In tandem with psychic waves, an orchestra of unseen forces. Quinn's analysis revealed a network of energy conduits linking the children's minds to the fleet. "They're acting as translators," she whispered. "Without them, we'd never navigate the dimensional currents alive." Mira's gaze locked on Hale through the comm feed, eyes reflecting starfire and dread. The Admiral's gut twisted. The fleet was ancient, intelligent, and likely hostile. But these children, innocent as they seemed, might be the only key to survival. A warning flashed across the bridge. Unknown vessels converging from the dark side of the system. Hale's hand hovered over the tactical console. "Hold fire," he commanded, eyes scanning the void. The children's psychic pulses surged, a warning layered with urgency. Mira's harmonic tones mapped out the fleet's formations and potential trajectories. Hale realized that if they misstepped, the Phantom Fleet might interpret it as aggression, and humanity would face annihilation. Quinn coordinated with the children remotely, translating pulses into evasive maneuvers. Every flicker on the holographic display revealed ships appearing and disappearing between dimensions. Crew members whispered about phantoms walking through walls, shadows in the hull that vanished when scanned. Hale's heart raced. "We've crossed the threshold," he muttered. The Phantom Fleet isn't just out there. They're here, and they know we're coming. Suddenly, the fleet shifted in unison, moving like a living organism across the void. Hale ordered full power to the engines, evading gravitational eddies and spatial distortions. Mira's mind emitted a pulse of clarity, giving precise navigation instructions that bent reality itself. Vigilant danced through impossible corridors of energy, dodging vessels that seemed simultaneously material and spectral. The bridge lights flickered as the psychic resonance intensified, filling the crew's minds with visions of the Phantom Fleet's battles. Quinn's voice trembled with exhilaration and fear. "They're showing us the wars they've fought, the galaxies they've burned." Images of destroyed planets and echoing screams flickered across the holoscreens. Hale felt the weight of centuries pressing on his shoulders. The fleet's consciousness wasn't malevolent. It was survival-driven, and humans had stumbled directly into their domain. The choice ahead was stark: retreat and lose the chance to save a dying galaxy, or follow the children's guidance into unknown chaos. The fleet's vanguard emerged fully into view, vessels vast and angular, bristling with unknown technologies. Hale ordered shields raised, weapons primed, and sensors recalibrated. Mira's psychic pulses mapped the fleet's energy flows, revealing weak points, but the information came at a cost. Crew members began hearing whispers, seeing fragmented timelines of battles that hadn't yet occurred. The void itself seemed alive, bending light, sound, and thought. Quinn adjusted the neural interface, stabilizing the connection. "They're waiting," she warned. "Not for us, but for what we carry." Hale understood immediately. Humanity's entry had triggered a response. The fleet's psychic network was probing them, testing their intentions. Once more, as Vigilant prepared to jump closer to the fleet's heart. Hale's voice was steady, though inside, every instinct screamed. This was the edge of everything known, and the beginning of war across dimensions. The void around Vigilant rippled like liquid metal as the fleet's core vessels pulsed with alien energy. Hale gritted his teeth, scanning a holographic display showing vessels flickering between dimensions. "They're not attacking. Yet," he muttered. Every psychic pulse from Mira seemed to synchronize with the fleet, guiding their path deeper into the dying galaxy. Crew members whispered of hearing voices in languages they could not understand, echoes of civilizations lost to time. Quinn's hands flew across the neural interface, stabilizing Mira's connection. "They're testing our resolve," she said, voice tight. "Every signal, every pulse. It's a question. Are we friends or a threat?" The children's harmonics formed a lattice of thought, transmitting not only coordinates but intent. Hale realized their fate rested on understanding the fleet's consciousness. A misstep could ignite a war beyond human comprehension. Mira's small voice hummed again, a single note that resonated through Vigilant's hull like a living heartbeat. Vigilant navigated through a corridor of collapsing stars, spatial distortions twisting every sensor. Suddenly, a fleet vessel flickered into existence, blocking their path. Hale's hand hovered over the weapons console, hesitation gripping him. Mira's pulse intensified, mapping a safe route that defied conventional physics. "Follow her," Quinn urged, translating the psychic map into star charts. Each second in the corridor felt like hours, reality bending around them. Crew members gasped as shadows of the Phantom Fleet shimmered in peripheral vision, vessels folding in and out of existence. Quinn monitored the children, noting an increase in psychic output. "They're synchronizing with us," she realized aloud. "Not just guiding, but sharing awareness." Hale exhaled slowly. The fleet was vast, ancient, and unknowable. Yet these children formed a bridge, a fragile human link to an intelligence older than the galaxy itself. The decision to continue forward had become a test of trust as much as skill. A sudden surge of energy lit the void as one of the fleet's ships materialized directly ahead, larger than any human vessel. Sensors screamed, shields strained, and Hale's heart raced. "Hold formation," he ordered. Mira's psychic resonance cut through the chaos, providing real-time data on the fleet's internal energy flows. Vigilant twisted and darted through gravitational eddies, following the child's guidance. Every pulse from Mira was a lifeline across dimensions. Quinn's voice shook with urgency. "They're communicating patterns, battle formations, tactics, even strategies." Hale swallowed. This was not mere guidance. It was a rehearsal of war written in psychic energy. Crew members began to experience fragments of memories, conflicts from centuries past, victories and losses that had shaped the fleet's psyche. Hale realized with grim certainty that the Phantom Fleet's intelligence was collective, interdimensional, and unfathomably patient. Their arrival here was no accident. The dying sun at the galaxy's heart cast twisted shadows across Vigilant's hull. Sensors picked up multiple ships converging, each one folding in and out of reality. Hale's knuckles whitened around the rail. "Prepare for contact," he ordered. The children's psychic signals flared into a harmonic symphony, guiding evasive maneuvers that defied physics. Each pulse revealed hidden currents in the void, as though the galaxy itself had become a living map. Quinn interpreted the signals frantically. "They're showing us. This galaxy is collapsing, but it's alive in ways we never imagined. We must follow the paths they indicate." Hale nodded. The choice was stark: pursue the coordinates or retreat. Mira's voice pierced the mental haze of the crew, a clear, unwavering note that resonated with every soul aboard. The fleet, ancient and vigilant, waited silently. The decision to follow had already begun to write the fate of humans and stars alike. Vigilant entered the outermost sector, where collapsing stars formed a luminous web of destruction. Hale's jaw tightened as the Phantom Fleet's vessels appeared fully, ships glimmering with interdimensional energy, engines silent yet radiating a sense of sentience. Mira's psychic map pulsed insistently, weaving patterns through the stars that suggested a hidden path, safe only if followed exactly. Crew members felt the weight of every choice, every movement, every breath. Quinn's fingers flew across the neural interface. "We're no longer observers," she warned. "We're participants in something far larger than war, a network of consciousness spanning dimensions." Hale's eyes met hers. He understood the truth. This mission was now a test of humanity's capacity to synchronize with a force beyond comprehension. Again, as Vigilant adjusted its course, diving deeper into the void, guided by children whose minds had become the key to survival, and perhaps the galaxy's only hope. The void grew unstable as Vigilant approached the fleet's core. Sensors detected energy spikes that bent light into impossible arcs. Crew members whispered of shadows moving independently, forming fleeting images of alien faces. Hale gritted his teeth. "Maintain course," he commanded, though the sensation of being watched prickled every nerve. Mira's psychic pulse flared, harmonizing with the fleet's energy, an invisible tether guiding the ship through the turbulence. Quinn analyzed the children's neural patterns, noting a resonance spike. "They're amplifying their connection," she said, voice tense. "The fleet is aware of us, and they're testing our intent." Each harmonic revealed more than coordinates. It carried the memory of battles, strategies, and losses from civilizations long erased. Hale realized that humanity had entered not just a battlefield, but a consciousness spanning centuries, one that could decide their fate with a thought. A massive vessel shimmered into existence ahead, engines radiating energy that warped Vigilant's sensors. Hale's hand hovered over the weapon's console. The ship was enormous, yet its movements were deliberate, almost intelligent. Mira's pulse accelerated, feeding navigational guidance and warnings. Vigilant twisted through gravitational eddies, following the psychic map while the crew's nerves frayed under the strain. Quinn interpreted the signals frantically. "They're communicating, not attacking." "Yet," she said. Images flashed across the holoscreens. Fleets waging wars, stars collapsing, civilizations being erased. Hale felt the weight of history pressing against him. "This isn't just a fleet," he muttered. "It's a living memory of every galaxy it's ever encountered." The realization struck like a hammer. The children were humanity's only bridge to survival, and the margin for error had vanished entirely. Suddenly, the fleet shifted as one massive vessel folded partially into another dimension, revealing a void within itself. Crew members recoiled as sensors failed, lights flickered, and a low harmonic thrummed through the ship. Hale's jaw tightened. "Steady," he said, though his own pulse raced. Mira's psychic pulse cut through the chaos, revealing currents in the void that no instrument could detect. Vigilant followed her guidance, slipping past energies that would have torn lesser ships apart. Quinn's console erupted with data. "They're allowing passage," she whispered, "but they're watching every decision." The children's neural patterns intertwined with the fleet's consciousness, a shared awareness stretching across light years. Hale realized that every maneuver, every choice was being evaluated. The fleet wasn't just sentient. It was an intelligence older than humanity, and they had arrived as uninvited guests in a war that had been raging long before humans ever reached the stars. The dying galaxy came into view, its stars fractured, orbiting each other in unstable loops. Hale's heart clenched. Entire systems had already collapsed. Mira's psychic map pulsed frantically, pointing to a series of coordinates within the chaos. "We must reach the core," Quinn urged, translating the signals. Vigilant accelerated, engines roaring in unison with the harmonic pulse, threading a path through stellar debris, gravitational vortices, and spectral echoes of ancient battles. Crew members felt themselves drawn into the rhythm of the children's harmonics, their senses stretched beyond normal perception. Hale grasped the enormity of their mission. The fleet was alive, aware, and fully capable of obliterating them if mistrusted. Mira's small voice rang through the psychic network, clear and insistent. "Follow. Carefully." The bridge hummed with tension as humans and children became part of a larger consciousness, bridging the gap between survival and annihilation. The fleet's heart emerged, a titanic vessel partially phased into another dimension, radiating energy that distorted space-time. Hale felt the weight of centuries pressing down. Mira's psychic resonance surged, weaving a path through the impossible currents. "Engage the link fully," Quinn commanded. The ship's neural interface synced with the children's consciousness, creating a lattice of thought and intent connecting humanity directly with the Phantom Fleet. Hale inhaled sharply, realizing the enormity of the moment. The fleet wasn't hostile. It was testing them, probing the children's connection to determine intent. The dying galaxy trembled with potential collapse. Every pulse from Mira carried hope and warning, a chance to intervene, to prevent the galaxy from succumbing to the void. Vigilant, diving toward the fleet's core, bridging the unknown gap between human resolve and interdimensional intelligence, stepping into a fate no human had ever faced before. Vigilant hovered at the edge of the Phantom Fleet's core, where dimensional energy twisted the stars into impossible patterns. Hale's hands clenched the rail as Mira's psychic pulses hummed like a living heartbeat. Crew members whispered about visions of battles that had never occurred, or perhaps had yet to happen. Every pulse guided Vigilant closer, threading through gaps that conventional physics deemed impassable. Quinn monitored the neural interface, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "They're judging us," she murmured. "Every decision, every maneuver, they're aware." Mira's harmonics surged, projecting star maps and fleet formations directly into the crew's consciousness. Hale realized that the children weren't just guides. They were translators, interpreters, and negotiators with an intelligence beyond comprehension. The line between human thought and interdimensional consciousness blurred with every passing second. Suddenly, a massive vessel folded out of another dimension, blocking the path to the dying galaxy's core, Sensors failed as waves of energy bent light and disrupted communications. Hale's voice was calm but firm. "Hold formation. Follow the children's guidance." Mira's pulse flared like a beacon, revealing hidden paths and currents that twisted around the interdimensional vessel. Vigilant twisted through the void, guided by psychic resonance alone. Quinn's console was a storm of readings. "The fleet is communicating, showing us potential outcomes of each decision," she said, voice taut. Crew members reported hearing fragments of alien memories, victories, losses, and warnings spanning centuries. Hale understood the danger. This intelligence wasn't merely sentient, it was a living archive of civilizations, and humanity's presence was being weighed with every heartbeat. The dying galaxy's gravity wells tugged violently at Vigilant, threatening to tear the ship apart. Mira's harmonics pulsed violently, guiding evasive maneuvers through streams of collapsing stars. Hale barked orders as crew members struggled to stabilize the engines. Shadows of fleet vessels shimmered at impossible angles, folding in and out of perception. Every movement was a delicate negotiation with forces beyond comprehension. Quinn realized with growing urgency. The children aren't just guiding, they're mediating with the fleet itself. If they falter, we falter. Hale's gaze locked on the holographic map, where pulses of psychic energy traced a path to the galaxy's core. The fleet's movements were precise, almost ritualistic, yet entirely unpredictable. Every second in the void felt like a century, and every pulse from Mira was a lifeline to survival. A massive surge of energy erupted from the fleet, folding multiple vessels into overlapping dimensions. Hale's eyes narrowed. The fleet was testing them. Vigilant shuddered as psychic harmonics from Mira intensified, creating a shield of neural resonance that stabilized the ship. Crew members felt a strange unity, as though their thoughts were synchronized with the children's and the fleet's consciousness simultaneously. Quinn's fingers danced over the console, stabilizing the interface. "They're assessing our intent, our courage, our capacity to follow the link without faltering." Hale swallowed hard. The dying galaxy loomed ahead, stars cracking under immense gravitational stress. Mira's pulse surged, forming a clear path through the chaos, and Hale knew the decision ahead was irrevocable. Follow the psychic map and risk the fleet's wrath, or retreat and leave the galaxy to collapse. As Vigilant dove deeper into the interdimensional currents following Mira's psychic map, shadows of the fleet shimmered around them, vessels folding in and out of perception like living specters. Hale gripped the rail, every instinct screaming caution, but every pulse from the children urged him forward. The dying galaxy lay ahead, fragile yet alive, waiting for human intervention. Quinn monitored Mira, noting the child's exhaustion as she maintained the link. "We're nearly at the core," she warned. Hale's jaw tightened. Every flicker of light, every harmonic, was a signal from the fleet, both a guide and a warning. Humanity's presence had triggered centuries of vigilance, and the bridge between human and interdimensional intelligence was as fragile as it was vital. The moment had arrived. The fleet's judgment and the galaxy's fate would be revealed in the next pulse. Vigilant entered the warped heart of the dying galaxy, where stars twisted like molten metal and gravitational currents clawed at the hull. Hale's jaw clenched as shadows of the phantom fleet shimmered around them, folding in and out of dimensions. Mira's psychic pulses flared, warning of unseen threats. Crew members felt a strange resonance, their thoughts blending with the child's guidance as if reality itself was rewriting itself around them. Quinn's fingers flew across the console, stabilizing the neural interface. "The fleet is probing us," she said, eyes wide. "Not attacks, but evaluations." Flashes of alien memories and battles surged through the crew's minds, brief but vivid. Hale realized the fleet's intelligence was not just sentient. It was ancient, adaptive, and capable of perceiving intent through psychic resonance. Every decision here could ripple across dimensions, leaving humanity vulnerable, or victorious. A massive vessel flickered into visibility ahead, engines radiating interdimensional energy. Sensors failed under the strain, leaving Hale to rely on Mira's pulses alone. "Steady," he commanded, gripping the rail. The child's mind projected paths through the chaos, guiding Vigilant past gravitational eddies and collapsing star systems. Every movement was a negotiation, a delicate dance with forces beyond human comprehension. Quinn translated the psychic harmonics into navigational data, eyes wide with tension. "They're testing us," she whispered. "If we falter, they'll consider us a threat." Crew members shivered as fragmented memories of wars, conquests, and lost civilizations flashed through their consciousness. Hale's grip tightened on the rail. The children's guidance wasn't just vital, it was survival. One misstep could ignite centuries of wrath embedded in the fleet's interdimensional intelligence. Suddenly, the fleet shifted, vessels folding partially into overlapping dimensions. The void around Vigilant seemed to pulse with intent, as if alive. Mira's psychic resonance surged, creating a bridge between human perception and fleet cognition. Crew members felt themselves simultaneously inside and outside the ship, aware of multiple possibilities at once. Hale exhaled sharply, knowing the next choice would define life or death. Quinn's console displayed intricate patterns of energy flows, mapping the fleet's core movements. "They're communicating tactics, history, and warnings simultaneously," she said. Mira's pulse intensified, harmonics layering with the ship's neural interface. Hale understood. The children were not only guides, they were conduits, translating a centuries-old consciousness into actionable intelligence for humans. The stakes were no longer survival, they were comprehension itself. Vigilant threaded through the interdimensional maelstrom, dodging vessels that appeared and vanished like living shadows. The dying stars cracked around them, sending waves of radiation that distorted sensors and hallucinations alike. Hale's voice was steady but firm. "Trust the link. Follow the children." Mira's pulse formed a lattice of guidance, each node representing potential dangers and safe corridors through impossible currents. Quinn monitored the neural interface, heart racing. "We're approaching the galaxy's core. The collapsing star systems align with the fleet's central formation." Crew members felt the psychic pressure mounting, a chorus of harmonics and unspoken memories. Hale realized they were entering not only a physical battlefield but a psychic one. Humanity's presence evaluated moment by a consciousness far older and far more powerful than any they had ever known. The fleet's core vessels shimmered ahead, massive and incomprehensible, partially phased into other dimensions. Hale's grip tightened on the rail. Mira's pulse surged, projecting real-time calculations, paths, and warnings directly into the crew's awareness. Every move had to be precise. One miscalculation could provoke the fleet into aggression or erase them in a pulse of interdimensional energy. Quinn's fingers danced across the console, stabilizing the psychic bridge. "The fleet is aware of every intention," she warned. "They're not hostile, yet, but they're testing whether we are worthy of passage." Hale exhaled slowly, looking at the dying galaxy ahead. Stars trembled under immense gravitational stress, and shadows of fleets from multiple dimensions loomed. The moment had arrived, the first true psychic confrontation with the Phantom Fleet, and the children's abilities would determine whether humanity survived or became another echo in the void. Vigilant moved deeper into the fleet's heart, navigating corridors of folded space that defied comprehension. Shadows of massive vessels shimmered in the periphery, engines silent yet radiating intelligence. Hale's jaw clenched as psychic pulses from Mira intensified, warning of unseen threats. Crew members reported visions of alien battlefields and spectral echoes of ships destroyed centuries ago. Quinn monitored the neural interface, voice tense. "They're testing every decision, every hesitation," she said. Mira's harmonics mapped hidden currents, revealing paths through the fleet that no instrument could detect. Hale realized that this was more than navigation. It was diplomacy through thought. Every maneuver, every pulse could mean survival or annihilation. The children were humanity's only bridge to the intelligence beyond the void. A massive Phantom Fleet vessel phased into visibility directly ahead, its engines radiating waves that disrupted Vigilant's sensors. Hale's hands hovered over the tactical console. Mira's pulse surged, guiding evasive maneuvers that twisted reality itself. Crew members felt their minds stretching across dimensions, following currents only visible to the child's psychic network. Quinn interpreted the harmonics, translating them into navigational coordinates and warnings. "It's not attacking, yet it's probing," she said, voice taut. Flashes of alien strategy and memory filled the crew's perception. Hale's jaw tightened. The fleet wasn't merely sentient, it was an archive of civilizations, testing humanity's intent and resolve. One misstep could trigger a catastrophic response. The dying galaxy loomed ahead, stars cracking under immense gravitational strain. Vigilant followed Mira's psychic map, weaving through collapsing systems. Shadows of the fleet folded and unfolded around them, creating impossible geometries. Hale barked orders, keeping engines at maximum output while relying entirely on psychic guidance. Every second felt like an eternity, the void itself pressing against the hull. Quinn's console erupted with data. "The fleet is communicating potential outcomes of each maneuver," she said. Crew members saw flashes of battles and disasters, memories not their own. Hale realized the children were doing more than guiding. They were mediating between human intent and an intelligence older than the galaxy. Each pulse of Mira's mind carried hope, warning, and the fragile key to survival. Suddenly, a vessel emerged directly in their path, partially phased into another dimension. Vigilant shuddered as gravitational currents tore at the hull. Hale gritted his teeth. "Follow the pulses exactly," he ordered. Mira's harmonic surged, stabilizing the ship and projecting paths through the currents. Crew members clutched rails, minds stretching to perceive multiple dimensions at once. Quinn whispered, awestruck. "They're testing courage and precision, seeing if we can act in harmony with the fleet." Every movement of the Phantom Fleet seemed deliberate, yet beyond comprehension. Hale understood. This was more than a test of navigation. It was a psychic trial, where humans had to prove their worthiness to intervene in a galaxy on the brink of collapse. Failure was unthinkable. Vigilant emerged into a partially stabilized region of the dying galaxy, where stars burned with fractured brilliance. Shadows of the fleet swirled around them, engines silent, but intelligence unmistakable. Hale's pulse raced as Mira's mind projected precise coordinates, guiding them through corridors of folded space that defied physics. The children's link was tenuous, yet it held the key to survival. Quinn's fingers flew over the neural interface, monitoring harmonics and psychic resonance. "They're observing every thought," she warned. Crew members experienced visions of centuries-long wars, of civilizations rising and falling. Hale gritted his teeth, feeling the weight of responsibility. Humanity's presence had been noticed. The fleet had tested them, and now the real trial began. Navigating the dying galaxy's core while proving themselves worthy of the children's link and the Phantom Fleet's fragile trust. Vigilant drifted closer to the fleet's central formation. Shadows of titanic vessels shimmered around them, engines silent but radiating consciousness. Mira's psychic pulse surged, projecting paths through impossible interdimensional currents. Crew members clutched the rails, minds stretched to perceive multiple layers of reality at once. Hale's jaw tightened. Every second was a test, every pulse a lifeline. Quinn monitored the neural interface, tension taut in her shoulders. "They're evaluating our reactions to stress, to danger," she said. A sudden jolt rocked the ship as a vessel phased briefly into their trajectory. Mira's mind flared, guiding evasive maneuvers, but 2 crew members collapsed from psychic overload. Hale's chest tightened. The fleet's intelligence was not only observing, they were judging humanity's resilience under pressure. A sudden surge of energy pulsed from the fleet, folding reality around Vigilant. Sensors failed, alarms blared, and shadows flickered at impossible angles. Hale barked orders, relying entirely on Mira's guidance. Crew members' minds reeled from the psychic resonance. Whispers of alien languages and long-dead battles filled the bridge. Every movement became a negotiation with forces beyond comprehension. Quinn's fingers danced over the console. "They're showing us fragments of their enemy," she warned. The holoscreens flickered with images of vessels consumed by void-like energies, galaxies shattered. Mira's pulse intensified, translating psychic warnings into navigational data. Hale exhaled slowly, realizing the fleet's judgment was not just of intent, it was a prelude to confrontation. The enemy beyond the void was alive, and it hungered. The dying galaxy's core loomed, stars twisting under immense gravitational stress. Shadows of the fleet's vessels shimmered like living phantoms. Hale gritted his teeth as Mira's pulses guided Vigilant through collapsing star fields. Crew members felt themselves drawn into a rhythm of interdimensional resonance, their senses straining to comprehend multiple timelines at once. Quinn's console erupted with data. "The fleet is showing us the scale of their enemy," she said. Ships folded into void-like dimensions, some destroyed, some resurrected as spectral echoes. Mira's mind translated the images into coordinates and warnings. Hale realized humanity was witnessing a battle older than the galaxy, a war spanning dimensions, and the children's link was the only key to survival. Suddenly, a wave of interdimensional energy crashed across Vigilant, rocking the ship. Crew members screamed as shadows flickered violently, some partially solid, others ephemeral. Hale gritted his teeth, relying entirely on Mira's pulses. The child's psychic map shimmered like a living grid, weaving paths through collapsing stars and fleet vessels. Every decision became a matter of life and death. Quinn's voice shook. The fleet's enemy. It's consuming realities, not just ships. Images flashed across the holoscreens. Galaxies stripped of matter, civilizations erased from existence. Hale's chest tightened. Humanity's survival wasn't guaranteed. The Phantom Fleet had fought for eons to contain this force. Mira's pulse surged, a single unwavering note that guided them through the chaos. The link between human and fleet was their only shield against annihilation. Vigilant entered the heart of the fleet's formation, vessels twisting between dimensions like living shadows. Mira's psychic pulses flared, projecting safe corridors through the collapsing galaxy. Hale barked orders, engines roaring in sync with the child's harmonics. Every movement, every calculation was critical. The fleet's awareness pressed against them like a living force, testing intent, resilience, and courage. Quinn's console hummed with energy. "They're letting us pass." "For now," she whispered. Mira's small voice resonated through the psychic network, clear and insistent. "Follow. Carefully." Hale understood. The dying galaxy, the fleet, and their enemy beyond the void formed a triad of threats and opportunity. One misstep, one faltered pulse, and humanity would join the countless civilizations already consumed by the void. The first confrontation with reality itself was imminent. Vigilant twisted through the fleet's interdimensional formation, shadows of titanic vessels flickering at impossible angles. Hale barked orders, each movement guided by Mira's psychic pulses. Crew members clutched the rails, perceiving currents and threats no sensors could detect. Every second stretched, the void pressed against the hull like a living weight. Quinn monitored the neural interface frantically. "They're projecting battlefield simulations, training us, testing our reactions," she said. Mira's harmonics pulsed with warnings of collapsing star systems and enemy vessels emerging from void-like dimensions. Hale realized that survival depended on synchronization. Human instinct, psychic guidance, and fleet intelligence had to operate as one, or the galaxy would fall before they reached the core. Suddenly, a void ship flickered into visibility, massive and alien, its energy rippling like a living shadow. Hale barked, "Evasive maneuvers!" Mira's pulse surged, mapping currents through the collapsing galaxy, guiding Vigilant past gravitational traps. Crew members screamed as stars cracked and gravitational waves threatened to crush the hull. Quinn translated Mira's psychic harmonics into star charts. "It's testing us," she said. "Not attacking, yet, but every misstep will be fatal." Crew members glimpsed echoes of civilizations consumed by the void, memories that weren't theirs. Hale's chest tightened. Humanity's survival wasn't just skill. It was understanding the psychic bridge the children had formed with the Phantom Fleet. One miscalculation could erase them all. The fleet shifted in unison, vessels folding partially into other dimensions, projecting waves of psychic energy that reverberated through Vigilant. Crew members staggered, disoriented by flashes of battles long past and possible futures. Hale gritted his teeth. "Trust the pulses," he shouted. Mira's harmonic map formed a lattice of safe corridors through the chaos, guiding the ship as reality itself trembled around them. Quinn's console displayed the scale of the fleet's assessment, patterns of movement, predictions of risk, and warnings of enemy incursions. "They're evaluating courage, precision, and intent," she said. Mira's psychic pulse surged, aligning human perception with interdimensional awareness. Hale understood. The fleet was testing humanity's capacity to survive under pressure, preparing them for the inevitable confrontation with the void-consuming enemy. A sudden burst of energy erupted from the void, sending shudders through Vigilant. Shadows flickered violently as multiple void ships phased in and out of reality, testing the psychic network. Hale barked orders, relying entirely on Mira's guidance. Crew members felt their thoughts merge with the child's resonance, following currents that bent physics itself. Quinn's voice shook. "The enemy is approaching. The void is consuming entire systems, advancing like a predator." Mira's harmonics intensified, weaving a shield of mental resonance around the ship. Hale realized the stakes. Every pulse, every maneuver, every thought was being judged not only by the fleet, but by the consuming force lurking beyond the void. Humanity's survival now depended on psychic unity and absolute trust in the children's link. Vigilant darted through collapsing stars and folding space, shadows of fleet vessels forming a protective lattice. Hale's voice cut through the psychic resonance. "Prepare for direct engagement if necessary. Trust the link." Mira's pulses flared, projecting paths that threaded through interdimensional currents, avoiding the void's growing reach. Every crew member felt the tension of centuries-old battles pressing against their minds. Quinn monitored the children's neural output, sweat beading her brow. "They're guiding us, but the enemy is testing every threshold," she warned. The fleet's vessels shimmered, partially phased, simultaneously observing and shielding. Hale understood the truth. The first confrontation was imminent, and casualties were inevitable. The dying galaxy's fate, and humanity's, rested entirely on the psychic bridge forged by the children and the Phantom Fleet. Vigilant sliced through collapsing starfields, shadows of the Phantom Fleet forming a protective lattice. The void beyond pulsed, consuming light and gravity alike. Hale barked orders as Mira's psychic pulses projected a map of interdimensional currents. Crew members felt their minds stretched, reality bending around them, the line between perception and guidance blurring. Quinn's fingers flew across the neural interface. "They're preparing us," she said, "not just for navigation, but for combat." The holoscreens flashed with images of void-consuming vessels, each one devouring star systems as if testing the fleet's defenses. Hale exhaled sharply. Humanity was no longer observers, they were participants. threading the line between survival and annihilation with every pulse of the children's minds. Suddenly, void ships phased into reality, engines silent but radiating lethal energy. Hale barked, "Evasive maneuvers, full psychic synchronization." Mira's pulses surged, weaving paths through collapsing stars and fleet vessels. Crew members felt as though they were everywhere and nowhere at once, guided entirely by the psychic lattice. Quinn interpreted the harmonics frantically. "The fleet isn't just guiding. They're coordinating attacks and defenses, training us in real time," she said. Images of alien battles and consumed galaxies flashed in the crew's minds. Hale's chest tightened. The children's link wasn't just survival. It was humanity's only weapon against a force older and more dangerous than anything in recorded history. A massive void wave surged, threatening to tear Vigilant apart. Shadows of fleet vessels flickered around them, some partially phased, others fully present. Hale's hands flew over controls, engines roaring in sync with Mira's psychic pulses. Crew members staggered under the strain, their minds stretched across dimensions. Quinn's console glowed with neural feedback. "They're showing us the scale of the enemy's devastation," she whispered. Mira's harmonics projected safe corridors and attack vectors simultaneously. Hale realized the Phantom Fleet's mission had always been containment, not annihilation of life, but control of a force beyond comprehension. Humanity was now a participant in a war older than the galaxy itself, with only the children as guides. Vigilant darted through collapsing stars, weaving between void-consuming vessels. Mira's pulses flared, creating a psychic shield around the ship. Hale barked orders, each decision guided by harmonics, star charts, and gut instinct. Crew members felt the weight of centuries pressing on their minds, fragments of alien memory and future possibility colliding. Quinn interpreted the resonance lattice. "The fleet isn't hostile. They're teaching us to fight with them," she said. Hale's eyes widened. The revelation hit hard. The Phantom Fleet's ultimate mission was not conquest, but preparation. The children weren't just guides. They were translators for a centuries-old intelligence preparing humanity to confront the void-consuming enemy directly. The dying galaxy's core loomed, stars fractured and trembling. Shadows of fleet vessels folded across dimensions, forming a living lattice of intelligence. Hale gritted his teeth, following Mira's psychic pulses through corridors of impossible energy. In unison with the harmonics, each movement is a negotiation with reality itself. Quinn's voice trembled. "They've revealed their purpose. They're guardians, not destroyers. Humanity has a role, if we can survive." Mira's small voice projected the final coordinates, guiding Vigilant toward the galaxy's core, where the void-consuming enemy awaited. Hale understood. The coming battle would test not only their skill and courage, but humanity's capacity to merge with interdimensional intelligence. The stage was set. The first decisive confrontation was imminent. The void-consuming enemy surged forward, dark ripples distorting reality. Vigilant and the Phantom Fleet moved as one, engines roaring in psychic synchronization with Mira's pulses. Shadows of void ships flickered between dimensions, each strike testing human reflexes and the children's link. Hale barked orders, every decision a balance between courage and instinct. Quinn's console flashed alarms. Crew members were succumbing to psychic overload. "They're feeling the strain of the void," she shouted. Mira's harmonics surged, creating mental shields around the crew. Hale realized the children were not just guides, they were living conduits, absorbing and translating the fleet's awareness into actionable pathways. Any fracture in the connection could be fatal. A massive void wave collided with the fleet's edge. Ships flickered, partially phased, engines screaming as gravitational currents ripped through them. Vigilant shuddered, hull groaning under stress. Hale's teeth clenched. "Hold course, trust the link." Mira's pulse flared, projecting a path through the chaos. Crew members staggered, minds entwined with psychic guidance. Quinn interpreted the harmonics. "They're showing us casualty projections. The void doesn't negotiate," she warned. Shadows of human and fleet vessels dissolved into spectral echoes. Hale swallowed hard. Humanity's survival depended on absolute synchronization with the children, who were now the fragile bridge between life and annihilation. One misstep, and the galaxy would fall. The fleet's core vessels phased in unison, emitting waves of psychic energy that stabilized Vigilant. Hale barked orders, engines roaring in sync with Mira's harmonics. Shadows of void ships surged from folded dimensions, testing the crew's reflexes. Each maneuver became a psychic negotiation, humans dancing on a knife edge of perception and reality. Quinn's console revealed a shocking anomaly. The children's neural patterns intertwined with one another in ways never predicted. "They're forming a collective consciousness," she gasped. Mira's mind pulsed in resonance with the fleet, linking human, fleet, and child in a triad of intelligence. Hale realized the truth. The children were not only guides, they were living translators for interdimensional strategy, and their survival was directly tied to humanity's. A sudden void shockwave tore through the fleet, tearing vessels apart in seconds. Crew members screamed as Vigilant rocked violently. Hale's hands flew over the controls, relying entirely on Mira's pulses. The child's harmonics surged, shielding the ship and projecting evasive pathways through collapsing star systems. Quinn's voice trembled. "The children are sustaining the link. They're at the limit." Shadows of destroyed ships flashed across the hollow screens. Hale's chest tightened. Humanity was witnessing the stakes of the interdimensional war firsthand. One psychic fracture, and both the fleet and Vigilant could be obliterated. The children had become the linchpin of survival, their fragile minds holding the galaxy's fate. The fleet regrouped, massive vessels twisting between dimensions like living shadows. Hale barked, "Prepare for coordinated strike. Trust the pulses completely." Mira's harmonic pulses flared, guiding Vigilant toward an opening in the void-consuming enemy's formation. Crew members felt their senses expand, perceiving the lattice of psychic and interdimensional currents. Quinn's eyes widened at the console. "The children are linking with one another, and the fleet. They've created a single, unified consciousness," she said. Hale exhaled sharply, understanding the implications. Humanity was no longer merely participating. They were integrated into a living strategy spanning dimensions. The first decisive psychic and fleet battle had begun, and the children's fragile minds held the key to victory, or total annihilation. The void-consuming enemy surged, consuming light and energy, stretching reality like molten glass. Vigilant and the fleet moved as one, engines roaring in psychic resonance with Mira and the other children. Hale barked orders, each decision a balance between instinct and the children's harmonics. Every pulse of their minds guided the ship through waves of annihilation. Quinn monitored the neural interface, voice tight with urgency. "The children are holding the link at maximum output. They're sustaining not just navigation, but combat coordination." Crew members felt the psychic strain in their own minds. Hale realized the fleet, the children, and humanity were now a single entity, each pulse a lifeline against the consuming void. One fracture could mean total obliteration. A void wave collided with the fleet, vessels flickering, engines screaming as interdimensional currents tore through them. Mira's harmonics flared, projecting evasive paths and psychic shields. Hale gritted his teeth, following the pulses with unwavering trust. Shadows of consumed ships flickered in the periphery, a stark reminder of the stakes. Quinn's console erupted with data. "The fleet is coordinating a strike. We can sever the enemy's core resonance," she said. Mira's mind pulsed in harmony with the fleet and the other children. Hale's chest tightened. Humanity was no longer passive. Their actions were now integral to the interdimensional strategy. One wrong move could shatter the psychic bridge, undoing centuries of vigilance. The children's unified consciousness projected the final attack coordinates. Vigilant weaved through collapsing stars, engines synchronized with Mira's harmonic pulses. Hale barked, "All ships, follow the children's guidance precisely." Shadows of the fleet phased, forming a lattice that intersected the void-consuming enemy, preparing for a decisive strike. Quinn's fingers trembled over the neural interface. The enemy's core is exposed. They're vulnerable, but only for a moment. Mira's pulse surged, sending waves of psychic energy that guided Vigilant into position. Hale's heart pounded. Every human decision, every child's harmonic, every fleet maneuver was now converging on a single point of destiny. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The strike commenced. Void energy collided with the fleet, tearing through space-time, but the psychic bridge held. Mira's harmonics pulsed like a living drumbeat, stabilizing Vigilant and projecting simultaneous paths through collapsing dimensions. Hale barked orders, each one executed in perfect synchronization with the children and fleet. Quinn watched, awestruck as the void-consuming enemy began to unravel. Fractured waves of reality collapsed inward, the fleet folding around them, stabilizing the remnants. Mira's unified pulse reached its peak, harmonizing human, fleet, and child into a single consciousness. Hale realized the truth. The Phantom Fleet's vigilance, the children's psychic bridge, and humanity's resolve had prevented the galaxy's annihilation. The battle was won, but at tremendous cost. Silence descended. The void-consuming enemy was no more, scattered across dimensions. Vigilant floated amid fractured stars, shadows of the fleet folding peacefully into existence. Hale exhaled, the psychic resonance fading slowly. Crew members collapsed in exhaustion, minds overwhelmed by centuries of interdimensional experience. Mira's small voice hummed softly, a single note of triumph and relief. Quinn smiled through tears, fingers brushing the console. They survived, and we survived because of them. Hale gazed at the stars, fractured but alive, understanding the enormity of what had occurred. Humanity had crossed a threshold. They had not only engaged an enemy beyond comprehension, but had learned to synchronize with an intelligence older than the galaxy itself. The children's link had become a bridge across time, space, and consciousness, ensuring that humanity and the Phantom Fleet would endure together in the galaxy reborn. The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.